close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
And the crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
Dave Montgomery on the Lions. Former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's a flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. There's flag. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
America is football. Football
America
is
is football. Football is America. And if you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass.
At the moment in time, I don't give a damn.
Oh my god.
No!
You love this.
30 to 27.
No!
Chiefs win. Chiefs
No!
win 30 to 20.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Only Football Podcast. Tonight, we're going to be going a little bit short to pay respect to the Purdue Boilermakers and the Connecticut Huskies, who are in the championship round, kicking off in about 15 minutes, tipping off. This is the Only Football Podcast. So, but anyway, we're just going to cover some NFL news, and then we're going to play a little game called, and if you guys watch Rich Eisen, then you know about this game, but it's called What's More Likely. For instance, what's more likely? The Texans or the Bills win more games next season? It'll be like that, but I have three things that we're going to go through. I did want to cover the Browns, who got green. Derek Brown agrees to 4-year, $96 million extension. Now, we know that the New York Giants, their best accusation came from the Carolina Panthers, but this was a guy that they were willing to pay. So it's been difficult for Derek Brown to garner national attention while playing for a team like the Panthers. As you can imagine, when you win only one football game, you don't get a ton of exposure, but that didn't prevent Carolina from rewarding its ascending star. So the former 7th overall pick, and this is why late draft picks matter, we get really caught up on rounds 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't forget about hitting on George Kittle in the 5th round or Brock Purdy with the last pick. I know that's an exception, but this happens every year. Gabe Davis was drafted in the 5th round. He had the same production last year as Jerry Jeudy, who was drafted, 14th overall? Jerry Jeudy that was drafted before CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk, and how you draft in the later rounds is very important. And this is just more proof of that. So the former 7th overall pick in the 2020 draft has agreed to terms with the Carolina Panthers on a 4-year, $96 million extension worth more than $63 million in guarantees, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reported on Friday. The Panthers later officially announced a multi-year extension for Brown. Despite Carolina's 2-15 finish in 2023, Brown earned his first Pro Bowl nod, putting together a stellar season. He racked up 103 tackles, 7 for loss, 2 sacks, and led all defensive tackles and run stops with 79. And that's actually 10 more than the closest defensive tackle per Next Gen Stats. So Brown mixed in 37 quarterback pressures despite facing double teams on 42% of his snaps, and posted a stop expected points added per play measurement of how his stops impacted opposing offenses, scoring of a minus 43.1, which was top 6 among all defensive tackles. The stats really do back it up. And if you remember, Nathaniel Hackett and the Denver Broncos, who was our defensive coordinator, he completely overachieved. We got him from the Rams, Evero, and the way the Sean Payton, Nathaniel Hackett drama went down. So that was Nathaniel Hackett's guy, Evero. So once they got Nathaniel Hackett out of there, Evero was like, you know what, I'm out of here too. And where did he go? The Carolina Panthers. And if you actually look at the Carolina Panthers a little bit deeper than just the 2-15 finish, you'll see that their defense wasn't that bad. And they're coached extremely well. I expect Evero, quote this, what are we at? 8:24 on the 8th of April in 2024. Evero will probably be a head coach candidate in the next 2 years. And it's going to be because of Carolina and their defense next year. I expect Carolina to be, I don't know what's going to happen offensively. I am not a believer in Bryce Young. If you've been following this channel, then you know that I'm not. But defensively, I do expect Carolina to compete, maybe even try to get into a top 10 spot next year. So Next Gen Stats listed the true story of Browns' impact on defense that often found itself tasked with attempting to keep the lowly Panthers competitive. And to be honest, sometimes they did. And there was a lot of games where the Panthers were competitive, and a lot of people know you can't lose to the worst team in the NFL, but the Panthers would always give you their best shot. And sometimes those are the hardest teams to beat, are the ones that you're on paper supposed to beat, but it's the NFL. You're not supposed to beat anybody. You got to go out there and earn it every single Sunday. So consider it well-earned and a vote of confidence from the Panthers club, attempting to rewrite its narrative under their new general manager, Dan Morgan. So congratulations to the Carolina Panthers and all the Derek Brown and Green for being able to earn those next contracts, especially coming into the NFL as a 7th round guy. You got to give credit where it's due. That's a big one. Now, I'm going to give you a story that was released today at 11:53 a.m. 2020, right before the eclipse happened. By the way, if you guys saw the eclipse today, I hope you enjoyed it. Where I was at, I had, 90% visibility of it. So I got a pretty good look at it. I had the sunglasses on and I could see it, and it was really cool. And I guess I was looking up how rare it is, and it was like, oh, it happens every 600 years. And then I was like, when's the last time it happened? And they're like 2023. And then before that, 2017. So like, I'm a little confused by how rare it is, or if it's rare, or I assume it's rare. But I'm not really in that world. I'm in this world. But I hope you guys got the glasses and you were at least able to step outside if you're working today and take a look up safely, because it was really cool. And I do have some pictures of it too. I'll post them on my Twitter at NFL with Kyle if you didn't get to see it. So all 32 teams will tell you that they need a good draft. Naturally, the Texans certainly would. Their 2023 draft class was a seismic franchise changer with the back-to-back draft picks. So would the Detroit Lions, who appeared to capitalize on their slew of high picks with the immediate results. Even the Carolina Panthers should reluctantly agree after watching CJ Stroud outperform Bryce Young during the quarterback's rookie year. So yes, every team would love to nail the draft in the 2024, but let's face it, some teams really need things to go right this April. This isn't the kind of draft for some teams that they can afford. Like, if the Niners don't have a great draft, they're still a great team. If the Chiefs only get one good player from this draft class, they still have Mahomes. But now we're going to talk about the teams that absolutely, if they don't have a really good draft, we're talking about them being potentially the worst team in the NFL next season. You'd be hard-pressed to get an NFL decision maker to admit it on the record, but for some teams, drafts mean more than others will. I tried to narrow it down to the most pressing situations, but all of those with the most at stake, or those with the most fewest disposable resources. So we rank these teams 1 through 9 of the teams that absolutely must nail the draft this year. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. And I'm going to start with the number 1 team. And this has nothing to do with what's behind me. Fully transparent here. I did not even write this article. I just enjoyed it and wanted to give it to you guys. So the number 1 team that absolutely must nail the draft this year is the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos have cut ties with Russell Wilson this offseason, and currently they have the least experienced quarterback room in the NFL. So finding a quarterback is absolutely essential for Sean Payton this offseason, but Herons line the tub. They don't have many tradable assets, and the rest of the roster is in a tough shape. And if you've been following the Denver Broncos this offseason, if you haven't, I'll catch you up. Jerry Jeudy's gone. Our best safety and the longest tenured Bronco on our team, Justin Simmons, and somebody that is a Walter Payton nominee, a guy that's going to come in, change the locker room, change the city, just one of the overall best Broncos of all time, gone. And, of course, Russell Wilson, gone. So this has just been a season, and then Tim Patrick restructured, and if he wouldn't have gone, this is the way it's going right now. But the fact is, Denver does not have a quarterback, and we are going into the draft basically in a position where we can't trade up the board, nor do I think we should, but we don't want to reach for a quarterback at 12. Should Bo Nix be drafted at 12? I don't think so. Should Michael Penix Jr. be drafted at 12? Probably not. Is J.J. McCarthy worth going in the top 5? Well, if he is, that's what would make sense. The Denver Broncos and I'm so used to saying that. The Denver Broncos and Sean Payton would probably package the number 12 overall pick with a first rounder next year and probably a third rounder the year after. And they would move their way to number 5, and the Cardinals would move back. And potentially after moving back to 12, they would move back up to 9 and draft a player with that third or something along those lines. But just focusing on the Broncos right now, the only way I see them trading up is if they are moving to 5. And if they are moving to 5, then they're drafting J.J. McCarthy. And if they're drafting J.J. McCarthy, we really have to have an honest conversation about what about J.J. McCarthy makes him draftable at 5. Or if we're blowing this out of proportion, every single year we're wrong about a quarterback. The Zach Wilsons, the people that you didn't really know about if you don't follow college football wholeheartedly, the people you didn't know about till the combine in the pro days. Those are the people we're talking about. Of course, we knew who J.J. McCarthy is because he was on the national championship winning team. But the fact of the matter is they didn't ask him to do that much. There is not enough on the film to suggest that J.J. McCarthy should go at 5. Jaden Daniels, absolutely. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. Caleb Williams, of course, he's going to go number 1. Drake May, he needs to improve a little bit, but we know that he's got it. Now, is he going to be able to develop? I don't know, but he's got enough talent to justify being drafted at number 3. And then we get to J.J. McCarthy, and we are basically saying, okay, we're not drafting him for who he is now. We would be drafting him for who Sean Payton could mold him into. So sitting at number 12 in the 2024 NFL draft, plus owning all their future day 1 and 2 picks. Oh, by the way, Denver doesn't have a second-round pick this year. Seattle's still somehow getting stuff from the Russell Wilson deal. All Denver lacks when it comes to making a quarterback trade is this year's second rounder, which was given to the Saints, for the Sean Payton trade. Okay. The last part means that the Broncos can't match what the Texans sent the Cardinals last year to move up to number 3 overall for Will Anderson Jr. At least in terms of the current draft assets, plus who's to say that a team such as the Vikings, who own the number 11 and 23, wouldn't be able to outbid the Denver Broncos. And this is kind of my biggest point about the whole thing. The Minnesota Vikings are actually the team that controls all of the first 10 picks in the draft, besides maybe number 1. But there's not much that the Minnesota Vikings can't do. And I really do think the acquiring those 2 first-round picks was because they wanted to package them together and trade up. Now, do I want my team that doesn't have a ton of assets to get into a bidding war for a player that may pan out? Not really. And I say that as a person that does not want to go into the 2024 season with Jarrett Stidham as my starting quarterback, or anybody else for that matter that is going to be like just the Joe Flacco's, the Case Keenum. I don't want that but that doesn't mean it's responsible to do this either. I just hope that we can at least just draft somebody that's going to actually make a difference. I don't care if it's Terrion Arnold. I don't care if it's Jared Verse. If he's fallen down the board, I do expect him to fall down the board somehow. But whoever it is, let's just do that and draft the quarterback. Let's package a third and a fifth, try to move into the second round and take Penix, take Bo Nix, take one of those guys. That's what I would wish to happen. The last part means the Broncos can't match what the Texans sent, and the Vikings would outbid them. Without a viable quarterback starter, Jared Stidham, ? In place, the level of urgency to make a deal feels high. The Broncos play in a tough division. Who's in their division? Yeah, the Chiefs. The Broncos play in a tough division and already have shed some skin this offseason with the release of Justin Simmons and the Jerry Jeudy trade. Dealing up might cost Peyton a chance to fill out his thin roster, but does he have a choice? It's the ultimate catch-22. And I agree. And I hate being in this position. I love when there's clarity. Wouldn't it feel great to be a Bears fan right now? And you just know, like, Caleb Williams at number 1. We don't have to wonder how things are going to go and, our destiny and our fate lying in other teams' hands like the Vikings. And it's really frustrating. So the Bears surely are one of the most set teams this year in the draft, right? That's what I thought. But number 2, the Chicago Bears. No team has more valuable 2024 draft capital than the Bears, starting with number 1 and number 9. They lack a second rounder, but otherwise, with their 4 picks coming in the top 122, the cupboard is pretty stacked. Now, general manager Ryan Poles must get dinner service started. They've been busy in free agency, and we've talked about that on the show with adding Keenan Allen. There's still a lot more for the Bears to do, but they have not yet added a major piece defensively this offseason. And we have heard, I believe we talked about it last week, where they want to draft a complement to Montez Sweat to get that 1-2 punch. So I expect it. A lot of people were saying the Bears are going to draft a wide receiver. I think the Keenan Allen trade means that they're not drafting a receiver. I think the Keenan Allen trade means that they're going to draft Jared Verse or Montu or whatever the best edge is, maybe a Dallas Turner, who knows? But that's what's coming, I think. Clearly, this draft is largely about the Bears quarterback vacancy and the expected selection of Caleb Williams. We won't gloss over that franchise-shifting decision. Williams isn't quite the slam dunk pick at number 1 that many of us imagined. With several talented alternatives and with Williams coming off a short of brilliant final season at USC, Poles has to know that his quarterback choice can handle the pressure of the job in a division that looks strong right now. Green Bay working their way up. Some people are saying underdog Super Bowl with the way Jordan Love closed that season, throwing for 33 touchdown passes, and it seemed like he didn't even get comfortable till the middle of the year. The Packers bringing in the Josh Jacobs, and like the Packers are really a sneaky Super Bowl pick. And I would say the same thing about Detroit, although not as sneaky, with I guess the hype and the hard knocks and just a little more publicity around Detroit, because the year Detroit had last year is the kind of year we're going to expect from Green Bay this year. So those two teams are going to be really good. The Vikings, sure, you can forget about it, but I don't think the Vikings are going to be great. I don't know who's going to be at quarterback. So we'll move off of that. But anytime you have 2 teams in your division that you could honestly see making a deep postseason push, you're in a very difficult division. 50% of your division is going to probably be in the postseason. Not many divisions are like that. So Poles now is going to draft Caleb Williams and see if it works out. Now, he mentions here that there's a lot of pressure in this division, but one of the best ways to set that quarterback up for success is to add a fruitful draft class. His first 2 classes have landed some quality talent, but there has also been missed opportunities, and what will they do with their pair of top 10 picks will define the Bears' trajectory over the next half decade. No pressure at all, right? I'm going to hit some of these comments. We got Bill in the chat. Mom sent me a pic of the from Texas of the eclipse. I was watching it live from Texas earlier today. We got Nash Hoffman in here saying hi, and also the Bills are going to be on there. And Bill said, "You want Daniel Jones? He's only $40 million a year." Absolutely not, Bill. Don't even put that. Don't even put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. We got Nick in the chat. What's up, fellas? Notable Chiefs hater wishing them a happy move to San Diego. And me and this was an interesting thing. I heard that the Kansas City or the state of Kansas put in a petition to get the Kansas City Chiefs to move to Kansas. Of course, they're in Kansas City, Missouri right now. So this, I didn't hear about the potential move to San Diego. I'm hearing about it now, but I'm going to say something really quick. And this is going on in college football right now. You look at the ACC and how Miami may be moving to maybe the SEC or the Big Ten. Well, I was talking to my buddy, and he's a diehard Florida State fan, one of the biggest fanatics I've ever met. He's as big as a fan as I am of the Broncos, and really the only person that I've ever met in real life that compares to my passion. Well, I was asking him, I'm like, do you want Miami to move out of the conference? And he's like, you know what? I don't. There's something about the rivalry that, would be missed. And I feel the same way. Kansas City, if they were going to move, the only place I would want them to move to is Kansas so they could keep their name. The San Diego Chiefs, that's so dumb. I can't do it. I can't even go there. And as much as I don't like the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm putting that very nicely, I still want to play the Raiders. If it were up to me, I still like the Oakland Raiders. Now, the move to Oakland to Las Vegas still kind of felt very Raidery, like the pirate, the bad, the cussing, now the Raiders are in Vegas. It just worked. Kansas City Chiefs moving to San Diego does not work at all. If Kansas City moved to, there's probably a couple places that they could get away with, including the Kansas one. But I wouldn't want to see the San Diego Chiefs. I just wouldn't personally, because to me, San Diego is always going to be the Chargers because that's what I grew up with. And I just don't think California needs any more football teams. I mean, you got the Chargers not even selling out their own stadium. They got one of the worst fan bases in the country. And they're talking about bringing more teams. Now, I know San Diego got absolutely screwed because all of San Diego, they're very loyal fans and they would sell out their stadiums. But since they moved to LA, it just hasn't been the same. If anything, just move the Chargers back to San Diego. And if you're going to move Kansas City anywhere, move them to Kansas and make sure none of these teams, depart from the AFC West. That's my petition, because I don't want to have to create a rivalry. And the best way I can put this is I never picked to be a Broncos fan. I always say this. They picked me. I never woke up and I was like, you must be a Broncos fan. You must be a Broncos fan. You must be a Broncos fan. But if I were to tell you how much I care deeply about this team, you would say, how is it possible that you're able to care so deeply about something that you put no effort into liking, right? It just happened. It's like being born left-handed. It's just born this way. So how is it possible? How does that happen? I feel the same way about, let's say the Packers. No, the Packers is a bad example because we have that Super Bowl. Let's say a really random team. Let's say the Miami Dolphins are now in the AFC West. That requires some kind of okay, now we hate the Miami Dolphins. Let's all get together and rah, get each other fired up because we don't like the Dolphins now. They're in the AFC West. It's creating. It's not natural. And that is kind of what I want to try to stay away from. I don't want to be in a position where I have to create something. I don't like the Raiders. I don't like the Chiefs. I don't like the Chargers. And that's it, right? I don't like some other teams. Like I'm kind of upset with the Texans right now for taking us out of the playoffs. I'm always going to feel a way, against the Ravens. And you guys know, if you follow this podcast, how much I hate the Ravens. I don't use that word all the time, very rarely. And I don't want to use it right now. I'm going to take it back. I don't hate the Ravens. But they are a team that does draw a lot of negative emotion out of me. But I'm thankful for that, because what fun is the game if you don't have that, right? You know what's worse than being hated? Being indifferent. I've heard that before, because if you're indifferent, people really just don't care about you. At least if someone hates you, you're still important to them to some degree, right? So when I say I hate the Ravens, take it as a term of endearment. I would put it that way, okay? So anyway, I'm glad we had this talk. Nick says San Diego is my personal pick because the Chargers, it's not serious, but San Antonio is actually on the table from what I've heard. San Antonio Chiefs. Oh man, just leave them alone. They're winning Super Bowls right now. Don't pull them out of that. You are going to crush those fans. You know, when you move a team, when the Jaguars haven't done anything, and you move the Panthers, you leave the competitive teams alone. If you're the Bills, don't move the Bills right now. Don't move the Chiefs. How about we just don't move teams, period? How about we just make a deal right now that as long as we live, the NFL will stay the same. I know there's money involved and that's impossible, but that's my vote. As much as I like change and I like new ideas, there's certain things that I don't like to be changed, and that definitely includes the cities that these teams are from. All I care about is football in the city that they're from. All right. So this whole thing about the Bears being at number 2 is not because the Bears absolutely must nail this draft. The point that the author is trying to make is that you're bringing in Caleb Williams into a very tough division, and if you don't nail on all those other draft picks, it might not be in the best, I guess. It might not help out Caleb Williams and give him the edge that he needs to be able to take on some of these other teams. So there's a lot of pressure on Poles to nail this draft class. But I'm going to go back to what I was saying. If you have 4 picks in the top 104 or whatever it was, the top 122, you're not going to mess that up. I think that they're going to be just fine. If you got 2 picks in the top 10, you'll probably nail them both. Especially this year, quarterback, wide receiver. Don't need a quarterback, Bears. Don't need a quarterback. Don't need a wide receiver because of Keenan Allen. So by the time they're back on the clock, it would be like they had the number 1 and the number 2 or the number 1 and the number 3 overall pick. And I guarantee you the Bears are going to draft a player that is the best at their position. It could be Brock Bowers. It could be Jared Verse. But they are going to probably have 2 of the safest picks on day 1 of the NFL draft. I don't agree with the author putting the Bears in this article. Number 3, I do agree with. This is the Minnesota Vikings. All signs point to a bold move up for quarterback, even as the provisional starter, Sam Darnold, provides some insurance. The good news is that the Vikings don't need to take someone who is capable of starting on day 1. The Vikings' dream scenario would be quarterbacks going number 1, 2, and 3. But with the Vikings' top option, not named Caleb Williams, still being on the board, but how likely is that? Moving up is one matter. The availability of the right quarterback worth trading up for is quite another. Couldn't have said it better. What happens if the Commanders or Patriots take the Vikings' preferred options at 2 or 3? Now, this is very interesting. What if we had it going, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Now we know that it looks like Drake May is not going to go number 2. It's going to be Jaden Daniels. And for the Patriots, is that their guy? What if JJ McCarthy goes number 3 overall? Would the Vikings still be willing to package those first round picks together for Drake May? Or do they not really care? They just want to take the best available. Whoever falls down the board, we'll just take that guy. I don't really know, and the Vikings are going to keep their cards close to the chest on this, but it is interesting. So if the Commanders or Patriots take the Vikings' preferred options, would they still move up to number 4 for their third or fourth favorite quarterback? Washington's Michael Penix Jr. or Oregon's Bo Nix are fallback options, but is Minnesota prepared to take one of them at number 11 overall? Complicating matters is the fact that the Broncos have the number 12 pick and the Raiders have the number 13 pick. And, the Raiders might be also hunting for a quarterback. The Vikings also aren't done building defensively. We know that they brought in defensive coordinator Brian Flores. I expect him to be a lot better in his second year. But the Lions, Packers, and Bears all seemingly are on the upswing. Kevin O'Connell might not end up on the hot seat after a losing season. But if the Vikings take a big swing at a top quarterback, they better play it right. And couldn't agree with that anymore. Nash said, agreed, but can a new team be in a different city? Now, that's a great question. That's different. I would say yes. Bill said, I'm with you on the Ravens. I still feel that Super Bowl loss. For me, it's that division. Ginger said, is this the combination of Don Johnson and Miami Vice and Jesus of Jerusalem in front of my eyeballs, look balls? That's hilarious. Ginger, I wish they just put the Chargers back in San Diego. Jesus of Jerusalem is Jesus of Nazareth. Smooth talking cousin. Ginger, what's up? Happy to have you in here, Ginger. We were just talking about your Colts briefly, or I thought about them, but I didn't say it yet. All right, number 4, the Washington Commanders completely agree. So far, new general manager Adam Peters quietly has done a nice job adding layers of depth, professionalism, and talent to what was a tired roster. But there are big voids at the top of the food chain, starting with the most important position. Holding the number 2 overall pick, the Commanders don't sit in the catbird seat, but they're just below it. So every quarterback not named Caleb Williams should be there for the taking. I don't know why they said should, will be there for the taking. It's one of the deepest, most exciting quarterback classes in recent memory. But this pick, right or wrong, will be embossed to Peters' resume for the next decade. Getting it wrong could cost people jobs, and that is actually the way it goes. Is there anybody still on the Bears from the draft class where they took Mitchell Trubisky? Is there? No, there's not. If you nail in the quarterback, you keep your job. It's simple as that. Washington has been stuck on a bad teacup ride at quarterback for a few decades now, and every time we thought it might stop, the vomit-inducing spin has kept on. You guys know about the vomit-inducing spin. I know Ginger knows. Finding the perfect solution also will require Peters delicately considering all sides from their arranged marriage staff. It's a pressure-packed decision that's sure to be questioned no matter who they end up with. Once they make the pick, the Commanders must surround that quarterback with a lot more talent. Both lines of scrimmage need reinforcements. The secondary remains incomplete. Wide receiver, once an unquestioned team strength, feels thin suddenly. One draft won't be enough to address all of this, but if Peter nails his quarterback selection, those issues suddenly feels less burdensome, and that is true. And to take it one step more true, if the Commanders nail on their quarterback, the need for wide receiver or any of these other positions, they suddenly won't feel less important. They may suddenly not be important. Tank Dell, Nico Collins. Did anybody go into last year saying, dude, the Texans have one of the best wide receiver core? I know it's not true. So the answer is no, especially if you play fantasy football. Go look at when Tank Dell or Nico Collins was drafted. This was, some of you got it right. I'll give you that. But it was still, 4th, 5th round type selection. So with all that said, it was actually CJ Stroud that elevated the play of his receivers. So depending on how well Washington really sticks their quarterback, it might not be a matter of bringing in more receivers. It might be that he elevates the receivers that already exist. And I do think the one quarterback that's going to be available at this point that is going to do that and be very good in the NFL is Jaden Daniels. Once they make the pick, that's me, but this is the author. Once they make the pick, the Commanders must surround that quarterback with a lot more talent. And I think that there's some truth to that. Maybe it's on the offensive line. I know they have Jahan Dotson. Is Terry McLaurin no longer there? Who's the receiver that they lost Samuel. They lost, I'm forgetting his first name, but Samuel went to the Bills, and, the Bills are another team that lost Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. So we'll keep that in our mind. But I think Washington with Jahan Dotson, who I view as a wide receiver 2, with wide receiver 1 upside, and Terry McLaurin is plenty good options for the Commanders. I mean, if Nico Collins and Tank Dell can take off with the right quarterback, the Commanders can too. So don't really agree with the author on the wide receiver side of this. I think the Commanders, it would be behoove them to draft other players in different positions and trust the wide receiver room that they currently have. So Bill said Commanders have 9 picks this year. 6 are in the top 100. And yeah, I could see that being a really good reason to put them in this article, because if they do nail 6 of those top 100 picks, and statistically the odds of nailing a top 100 pick is pretty solid. We'll just put it that way. So the Commanders are going to be a better team next year. I will always wonder what would have happened if they would have kind of planted the Sam Howell seed just for one more year. But when you're drafting at number 2 overall, sometimes you just have to go ahead and take a quarterback that is as talented as Jaden Daniels. So I don't fault them, but there's a part of me that will always be curious what could have been with Sam Howell if they would have really invested in him. At number 5, we have actually, I'm going to hit some of these comments right here. Yep, Curtis Samuel, that's who it was. Thank you, Jinja. And he said, I wish they would want let Scary Terry walk. Come on back home to Indy. I would shit a brick. Is Terry McLaurin from Indiana? I was not aware of that. But he was drafted by the Commanders, right? He must have played college in Indiana, I'm assuming. At number 5, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who have 11 total draft picks. 11. Even in a 4-13 season, the Cardinals actually showed some promise. They were competitive most weeks. They won 2 big road December games. And I agree with this already. Like the Cardinals were not, everybody knew if they were going to Phoenix that they were going on a work trip. This was not a team that was going to roll over. This was a team that was coached pretty well. And now he's going into year 2 of that system. And Kyler Murray is expected to play the whole entire year. I believe his $30 million roster bonus just kicked in. So Kyler Murray's not going anywhere. And Arizona with 11 picks could change this entire team with the coaching job that's being done. So they've made a few smart additions this offseason. Offensive tackle Jonah Williams, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting, and some reinforcements for the defensive line. Now, though, playtime is over. Honeymoons don't last long in this league, and the Cardinals need results. Yes, the 49ers aren't going anywhere in the NFC West, and the Rams could be competitive again. I'm going to change that to should be competitive again. But with the Seahawks in transition, the Cardinals must show that they're ready to do more than play in close games. Clearly, the Cardinals are hoping for a windfall trade down from the number 4 pick. They could also stand pat and take their top receiver, another big need, but with 7 picks in the top 104 overall right now, everything lines up for this to be a huge draft for the general manager, Monty Ossenfort. He worked the phones hard last year, and he could do it again. So will the maneuvering pay off? And I'll just say now, I fully expect the Cardinals to move down. Like, you got to take advantage of the situation. You're drafting at number 4. You don't need a quarterback. The teams that do need a quarterback are going to give you another first next year. like we're saying here, the rebuild is not going to be this 1 year. Now, if they nail even half of their draft picks this year, this is going to be a much better team because that's 6 players that are making a big impact, right? If they nail half. But then you go into next year with 2 firsts as well. So even if you have, say, a mediocre season, maybe 8-9 or something along that, maybe a little worse, maybe 6-10 or 7-11 or whatever it is. Ever since the NFL changed it used to be 10-6, 9-7. Now I always I freak out. It's like when I first changed to military time. But this team that is potentially moving up to number 5 is going to reach for a quarterback. Let's say it's JJ McCarthy. And if you're the Cardinals, you got to be thinking, wow, how are they so sure that JJ McCarthy is going to work out at number 5? Ding, ding, ding. They're not. So if it doesn't work out, then you would be dumb not to take the first. If Denver moves up, you get their first round pick next year and JJ McCarthy is a bust, guess what? You're going to potentially have 2 top 10 picks next season, and all of that, and all you have to do is move down to number 12 instead of number 4. It's hard to say no to that. And I don't think they should. So we'll see what they get done. Number 6, the New England Patriots. They have 8 total draft picks. And Bill said Austin Fort is smart. Agreed. The Cards trade down. And Ginger said, yes, sir. Went to high school at a big school here. He owned the city tournament a couple of years in a row. Warren Central. And thank you, Jamie McLaurin. Went to high school in Indy. You guys are the best. Thank you for keeping me honest there. So the Patriots have 8 picks. And real quick, I didn't tell you the Broncos' amount of draft picks is 8. The Bears have only 4 total draft picks. That's not a lot at all. So what I think they might do, why not the Bears, right, at number 9? Are they going to be able to turn down one of the best players at the position? That's another team that could move to 15. And maybe a team like the Broncos want to move up to number 9 to get ahead of the Minnesota Vikings. Right? Maybe we don't have to move up to 5. Maybe we can move up to 9. So that might be a way for the Bears to get more draft picks. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure you knew how many picks those teams had because I glossed over it. But the Patriots, there's a case to be made that after tearing down the house that Bill Belichick built, the Patriots renovation will take ample time. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that this draft class doesn't hold a ton of weight in terms of how that process unfolds. Number 3 overall is the highest the team has picked since the 1990s, mostly because Bill Belichick doesn't have losing seasons. Before Bill Belichick and before Robert Kraft, by the way, who at age 82 is eager to build another winner. If you guys haven't seen my conspiracy theory on Robert Kraft and how he used Michael Jackson to become the owner of this team, definitely I'll do that again for you on another day. But the owner is now counting on general manager Elliott Wolf, who never sat in the captain's chair before, to make the most of that selection. The Patriots took a cautious approach to free agency. They currently lead the league in cap space, increasing the importance of the top pick. The quarterback situation speaks for itself. Since Tom Brady's Patriots, quarterbacks have thrown for 68 touchdowns and 62 interceptions in their past 67 games. Those are the quarterback numbers since Tom Brady. And presumptive bridge starter Jacoby Brissett can only do so much to change that dramatically. If anything, Jacoby Brissett's will probably be on par with these current 68 touchdowns, 62 interception numbers. Will the Patriots and Wolves settle for what could be their third choice at quarterback? Or might they entertain a trade down, accumulating more picks and looking longer term at the rebuild? This situation might not easily be graded for a few years, but it doesn't negate the importance of this draft class to the franchise future. Couldn't agree more. The New England Patriots, Washington Commanders, Arizona Cardinals. These are the teams I expect to be on this type of a list. The Bears were the only team that I was a little shocked by, just because they're in the best situation possible for their current situation, or current circumstances. But number 7 is really interesting. And this is kind of play into this question I have lately of what's more likely, the Bills to win more games or the Texans to win more games. No sugarcoating here. The Bills have had a rough offseason. They watched Josh Allen's salary cap number rise about $20 million. They made a flurry of cost-cutting moves at the start of free agency and just recently had to swallow hard in trading Stefon Diggs away to a fellow AFC contender. Not, it's one thing to swallow hard. It's one thing to swallow hard, choking on another AFC contender. It's the kind of move that probably will pay off down the road. In the short term, though, the Bills have some serious work to do. And not a ton of resources with which to do it. And, of course, the Bills only have 10 draft picks. Okay, I think that's a pretty good amount of picks, right? But author says not a ton of resources. I can understand what he means as far as the team's assets outside of those draft picks, but having 10 draft picks is pretty solid. So general manager Brandon Beane gets a ton of credit for supplying this 2-ton soundbite. I mean, are we better today? Probably not. This is what he said after the Stefon Diggs trade, and it's just true. So, you're never going to be better after losing Stefon Diggs, but what he didn't say is probably more important than what he did say. I mean, are we better today? Probably not. Was it necessary? Yes. That's what he didn't say. Because if it was just simple as we're not better, why would he have done it? Of course, this was necessary, and he didn't have a choice as far as he viewed the team and what was in their best interest. But how will he keep the Super Bowl window ajar? Bills fans who are helping financing a new stadium would like to know. The truth is that this is Beane's biggest draft since landing Josh Allen in 2018. The availability of a banner crop of wide receiver helps, but whether a pass catcher will fall to the Bills at 28 is another matter. They can trade up, but the lack of a third rounder would hurt those efforts. Bills also lack safety and defensive line depth and probably will look to add more than one receiver. A running back complement to James Cook would be nice. Can the Bills achieve this in one draft? Yes. They shouldn't be on this list. The Bills are in great shape. They have 10 draft picks. I know they don't have a third, but there's a lot of great running backs in this draft. You have Isaac Guerrero out of Red State. Is it the Rutgers? I forget. I'm forgetting right now. Isaac. You got Byron Murphy. You might not be able to land Trey Benson. Or I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you could land. I think regardless, the Bills are going to be able to draft a wide receiver that's going to be a great starter and a running back that's going to be a great running back complement. It could be Blake Corum. It could be anybody. But when you add a player like Blake Corum and then you add a receiver, say Xavier Worthy out of Texas, because it's all the way at 28. Okay. You're already a lot better. Now, I know you still have those things about defensive line, but Josh Allen and what we saw with the tight ends emerging with Knox and Dalton Kincaid, and then you bring in 2 good running backs. Like, the Bills are going to be fine. I really do believe that. They have their franchise quarterback. Number 8 is much more of a real team that needs to draft well. The Bills have a franchise quarterback. No team with a franchise quarterback really should be on this list. The Bills are the first team on that list because they lost Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis. But I just don't think with how good Josh Allen is that that's going to be as big of an impact as people think. All Stefon Diggs, no credit taken from him, but he didn't actually look like he was helping the team much in the AFC divisional round. He was actually disappearing, and every time he showed up, he was just dropping a ball or catching a 7-yard slant. I think he had like 30 yards in the game. I can't even remember. That's how bad it was. So can Josh Allen get his roster back to that game without Stephon Diggs? Yes, he can. But this team truly might be one of the more fascinating teams in the draft this year. This is the New York Giants. And before I get into that, oh, my back hurts, man. I got crushed today. The gym, I go to this group training kind of gym, and today was by far the hardest day I've ever had at this gym. I mean, it was brutal. I didn't stop sweating until like 10 minutes before this stream. I was sweating hours after. Let's see. Diggs isn't the most quarterback-friendly wide receiver. Ginger said making the city help pay for a stadium is BS in my opinion. We went through it here when we built Lucas Oil. Not everyone is into football. And yeah, I could see that. The only thing I would say about that is, like, do we ever really know where our taxes go to? Because when they make the city pay for it, they take it out of their taxes, and it's like, I don't know, they take my taxes. I never look into like where it's going because I know it's going nowhere. I mean, I still pop my tires on potholes and wonder why the streets look bad no matter where I'm at. So ultimately, they take it. There's nothing I can do about it, so I'm not too invested in it. But I could see what you mean. Like, if you're not into football, it's like, what the hell, man? You're taking my money to pay for a stadium, but you got to keep in mind that stadium is going to bring more revenue to the city, which is going to be, you could make an argument that financially it's going to benefit you long term. I am sure there's some way to spin it, but I could see both sides, to be honest. So for the Giants, one of the most fascinating teams to watch this year, picking 6th overall, they could be in a terrific position to grab one of the draft's best receivers. Even if they were to miss out on the first wideout taken, this is a rare draft where the second and third best options on the team board could be the first on other teams' board. If it happens that way, the Giants likely would make, at worst, a stand-up double of a pick there. But there's this lingering itchy quarterback temptation that won't subside, okay? And we've heard about the Giants owner giving permission for them to move up and get a quarterback. General Manager Joe Schoen, help me out, Bill. Help me out, Jamie. How do you pronounce General Manager Joe Schoen? Hasn't downplayed the possibility of drafting a quarterback. He's attended several of the quarterbacks' games last season, and the Giants have since met with just about all of them in the pre-draft process. Most importantly, owner John Mara has signed off on the Giants using a high pick on a quarterback, even after the massive Daniel Jones extension. So how will Joe play it? A deal can be made if either the Patriots or Cardinals are willing to move out of number 3 or 4, respectively, but don't want to drop out of the top 10. But taking quarterback in the top 6 also means the Giants would have fewer assets to beef up the roster of a team that started 2-8 last season. Sorry, Bill. In my opinion, this is the most interesting draft of my lifetime. And I'm not just saying it because it's the next one. There's so many different ways that this draft could go. And there's so many teams in the top 10 that have so many options. And just how it's going to unfold, I find fascinating. I just don't know what's going to happen. There's a part of me that doesn't like that because I like to figure it out. I like to predict it and try to get ahead of it. But there's just so many things that can change, including number 9. This is another team picking in the top 10 that have a lot of options. And before I tell you what that team is, Giants have some of the worst names to pronounce. Okereke and Shane is how you pronounce it. And real quick about the Bills, Ginger said, I think the Bills will be better. That distraction is massive, plays a huge part. In 8th grade, our best player in basketball was kicked off the team. He was selfish as hell, but he was good. We went 12-1. Damn. Sometimes just getting rid of a player like that really does bolster the team. I agree. Now, number 9, I'm not happy about number 9 because number 9 also has a plethora of options, and it's the Los Angeles Chargers. And they have 9 draft picks as well. So John Harbaugh gives the Chargers a huge boost immediately. We know that because I came on and real quick, Nick, the Broncos are waiting for Arch Manning. Arch Manning's statue right next to Peyton Manning's statue outside Mile High. That's that. I'm manifesting that. So don't say that, Nick. We want Arch Manning. And Ginger said, I'm outside of the city, so I didn't see shit from it. LOL. I would rather pay for that than the governor's back door handy from a rough trick named Jim. I would rather pay for the handy. No, I'm just kidding. Manning and DeVito quarterback room. That would be nice. All right. So when John Harbaugh got this job, I came out with the video like absolutely dog shit. I was so mad because I know what it means for the Chargers, and I think it's going to immediately make them a lot better. But the roster bloodletting can't be ignored. They moved on from nearly 20 players. This is a huge transition. Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, 4 defensive starters, and many others. The Bolts own the 5th overall pick, and there's a scenario where quarterbacks go off the board with the number 1 through number 4, leaving the non-QB to fall into their hands. What does that mean? That means the Chargers don't need a quarterback. So the draft's going quarterback. Then when they're on the clock at number 5, they have the number 1 overall pick. It's simple as that. If it unfolds that way, adding wide receiver firepower with either Malik Nabers or Marvin Harrison would be the no-brainer. We have seen a lot of mock drafts now where Malik Nabers is going over Marvin Harrison because they are both tied for the number 1 prospect. They're a little different. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been related to Larry Fitzgerald, who is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. There's nothing about it. But Malik Nabers, some are saying just brings you a little more upside. So it'll be interesting to see if the Chargers do that. Now, they could also move back. Trading down also makes a ton of sense here. Either would be a positive first step, but there's no guarantee it'll unfold that way. Plus, the Chargers have other holes that need patching. Finding a running back shouldn't be troublesome, but replenishing the secondary, adding O-line depth, and even drafting a second wideout appears to be higher priority and likely tougher too. The Chargers have a tremendous assets in Harbaugh and quarterback Justin Herbert, and there are other redeeming qualities on the roster, but for Harbaugh to lead a worst to first change, it's going to take a few big hits, perhaps 3 new starters minimum from this draft. Will his recent college experience, including his time molding a boatload of Michigan prospects, give Harbaugh a scouting edge? I wonder. Yes, it will. Danny's 6'5". Jesus. Tall. I remember John Elway went on this thing where he was only drafting quarterbacks that were like 6'5", 6'7", and none of them were working. It's like, dude, they don't have to be the tallest quarterback ever. Brock Osweiler doesn't need to be that tall. 100% Nick, we would be sick if we knew the half of it. My state just funded $1 billion in a mismanaged account. Totally money laundering. And there was a place in Miami that was set up, and it was a store, and we would walk past it all the time. And I'm like, we're on Biscayne Boulevard, right? The rent on these buildings is tens of thousands of dollars. This is not cheap rent. There's a store here that I've never seen anybody go into. So, of course, it's money laundering. So we go in one day. Me and my uncle, we go in there, and I'm telling you, it's like, have you ever been to, think of it like an antique store with everything just dusty. I tried to buy 2 different things. First, they didn't speak any English, which isn't unusual for Miami. But that wasn't it. They were just shaking their head at me. And I was like, buy. And they were like, no. So I set it down, and I literally just grabbed something else. I was like, buy? They're like, no, closed. I'm like, it's 1:00. What do you mean closed? So this kind of stuff happens all the time. That's all I'm saying. And I always wonder, I'm like, if I can figure it out, why can't Miami figure it out? Of course they can figure it out. They know about it. So Short QBs, Kyler Murray has entered the chat. Watching you on my phone, baseball on my computer, and March Madness on my TV. Appreciate that, Nash, with all the different entertainment options that you are checking out this channel and listening to this episode. Appreciate having you in here. All right. So, like I said, I wanted you guys, I was going to try to do this episode somewhat quick so we could get to the game, or you could at least catch the final half of the college playoff game between Purdue and Connecticut, which is going on right now. And for those of you that want an update on that game, it is 30-36. It's already halftime. Look at that. Damn. And 30-36, and Connecticut is winning right now. Looks like a close game, though. Love to see that. Colts Anthony Richardson on his comeback from his shoulder surgery. This was a guy that looked really good when we did see him, but then he got an early injury, and with all the hype of the new quarterbacks coming out, Anthony Richardson's kind of been on the back burner. But I don't know if he should be, because we did see enough about him last year to be excited. The Colts second-year quarterback continues to make strides to get ready for 2024. Richardson's rookie season was sidewiped just after 162 snaps over 4 starts. Still 159 snaps more than Aaron Rodgers. He underwent season-ending shoulder surgery in October on his throwing arm following an AC joint sprain. The quarterback began throwing in February and remains on a pitch count, but is making steady progress. ESPN's Stephen Holder recently traveled to Jacksonville to recent Richardson for a workout. And keep in mind, Jacksonville is a very popular place for quarterbacks to go when they're rehabbing. Last year, when Brock Purdy was rehabbing following his surgery, he was also in Jacksonville. The quarterback throws around 40 passes per day right now and performs other rehab work to ensure he's ramped up and stable for the season. Now, this is Anthony Richardson talking. I've never waited long to get back to playing football. I've never waited this long to get back to playing football. I'm just on a mission this year. Once that mission's complete, then I'll be good. The youngster shined in his brief appearances as a rookie, showing better than expected anticipation, a massive arm, a dynamic escape ability with his legs. And after working through his struggles with his fastball early in rehab, Richardson appears back to his big arm self. At this point in the process, he's working on getting the timing and the feeling back. Sometimes having a curtail to desire to push it is too hard. Those days can come later this summer. Richardson, who turns only 22 next month, is younger than most of the quarterbacks set to be selected in the draft. After losing out on most of his rookie season, his mission is to prove that he's everything he displayed and more. Remember, Anthony Richardson was on that guy's freak list. He was considered an alien. He's one of the best athletes at the quarterback position ever in combine prospect history. That's how good he was. So let's not forget about this guy. And this is what he said. People didn't really get to see everything I could do on the field, he told Holder. So it's kind of like a rookie season for me still, but now I've gained a lot more knowledge and understanding about football and the NFL. So I'm a rookie at heart, but I know, but now I'm slowly turning into the leader that my team needs me to be. I love that wording. I'm slowly turning into the leader my team doesn't want, needs me to be. That is an awareness of his role in who he is supposed to be as a franchise quarterback. That is a lot of maturity for a kid that's 22 years old. All right. I'm ready for every opportunity that's in front of me. The number 4 overall pick last season certainly showed enticing talent and more readiness for the pro game than most prognosticators expected. The key now is for the Colts to keep Richardson on the field. Right now, if you were going to say I could trade the number 4 pick in this year's draft for Anthony Richardson, I would probably do it. That's how I feel about Anthony Richardson. I do think that he has more upside than Michael Penix Jr., maybe even J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, I'm saying that, or I would draft J.J. McCarthy at 4, but I think it's going to work out. I really do. So I hope he comes back healthy and strong, but and just a small update there on Anthony Richardson, his rehab, his mentality, and how excited he is to get back on the field. And hopefully the Colts, they were a team that outperformed a lot of expectations. They have one of the best head coaches, it seems, in the league with what they were able to do last year after these injuries and keep the team competitive under Shane Steichen. The Colts are going to be fine, and I think they're on the up and up, and I'm excited to see what they can do in the AFC South next year. Top defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat was arrested for a DWI in Texas. I don't know what's going on with Texas right now. You got Rashee Rice, who's, in my opinion, going to face a minimum of a 4-game suspension. But now you got T'Vondre Sweat arrested for DWI as well. Former University of Texas defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat, one of the top defensive tackle prospects, was arrested yesterday on a charge, suspicion of driving while intoxicated. Sweat currently is rated as the NFL Brookie Brooks' 5th best defensive tackle prospect following a strong final season at Texas. Sweat was named the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, and he was first-team All-American, totaling 45 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 4 pass breakups, 1 blocked kick. Sweat, the brother of Eagles defensive lineman Josh Sweat, also won college football Outland Trophy given to the nation's top interior lineman. This is a really good family. It's like a J.J. Watt type family. So Sweat posted his $3,000 bond following his arrest, and he's scheduled to meet with the Tennessee Titans on Monday, which I'm not sure if that's today or next Monday. I'm assuming it's today. Maybe it is next week with everything going on, though, because this was published today. And he's also expected to meet with the Seahawks later this week, per Tom Pelissero. Draft is April 25th, as a reminder, so coming up in just 17 days from now. We've seen this happen before. Last year, it was Jalen Carter. So, yeah, T'Vondre Sweat probably going to fall down the board a little bit. And I could see a team like the Seattle Seahawks and the Tennessee Titans being in that position to maybe draft him. So for those teams, I think they're pretty smart on having this meeting, but I don't know if the meeting was scheduled before the DWI or after, but if it was after, it's pretty smart because most of the time when something like this happens, they fall down the board. Remember, Warren Sapp fell down the board. So you might be getting some value there, but is this DWI a sign of things to come in the future, or was it just a mistake? That I can't tell you. So we'll keep monitoring that. Joshua Dobbs, the Pastronaut, is the new 49ers quarterback, and he is returning to Cleveland to take in the solar eclipse. I like this story because, of course, he was really into the NASA, not into it, but he spent a couple years with NASA. So this is what he said about it. With eyes across the nation taking in the solar eclipse, the Pastronaut made his return to Cleveland to take in the historic viewing party. Dobbs, who signed this offseason with the 49ers, had a pair of stints with the Cleveland Browns, so the 29-year-old quarterback found himself equally excited for the Niners prospects and the opportunity to catch a glimpse of history from the NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. I feel good, Glenn said on Monday on NASA's live stream. It's an exciting time. Obviously, I spent a couple years in Cleveland. I got a chance to have some fun over at NASA Glenn during my time there. So it's cool to be back and taking in the eclipse in Cleveland. But I'm looking forward to the future in San Francisco. I know NASA's doing some great work out there on the West Coast, so we'll be able to stay tuned to that as well. I just loves this. I mean, Dobbs, just a total genius. You can't just, not anybody can just walk into NASA and be known. So really cool for Dobbs, University of Tennessee product. And he has an aerospace engineering degree, in case that wasn't clear. And he also has established the Extraordinary Dobbs Foundation. the Extraordinary Dobbs Foundation, which is basically about the sky is not the limit. Our mission in Extraordinary Dobbs Foundation is a nonprofit dedicated to supporting, encouraging, and inspiring all members of our community, particularly the youth, through educational, economical, professional, and recreational empowerment. The foundation was established by Josh Dobbs. It functions as a grant-making foundation to other charitable organizations and also funds and implements outreach projects. So really cool. Just all the stuff that the Pasternot's into. He never actually played in a regular season game for the Browns. He was signed in the 2022 offseason, but released in November ahead of his first NFL start for the Titans that season. He returned to the Browns last year, but then was traded to the Cardinals. He was traded once more to the Vikings during the season. Dobbs came off the bench week 9, just days after acquired, to lead Minnesota to a thrilling win over the Falcons. I remember that day. People were, oh my God, this guy is amazing. This guy's amazing. But unfortunately, he did make a lot of costly mistakes, like to throw turnovers and interceptions. And I think anybody that goes to Kyle Shanahan is going to come out a better quarterback. Now, is that going to be, whether you're talking about Sam Darnold or what Jimmy Garoppolo turned into, or Kyle Shanahan's a quarterback whisperer. I expect Dobbs' level to go to the next level under Kyle Shanahan. But Josh Dobbs going to Cleveland just to take in the solar eclipse and check out what NASA's doing. Love that story today. And now I was just going to hit you with a quick NFL news roundup. Kevin King, a former second-round pick of the Packers who has not played since 2021, is signing with the Atlanta Falcons. Texas running back Jonathan Brooks, who is the number 1 running back on a lot of charts. I still say it's Trey Benson. But he's scheduled for a pre-draft visit on Tuesday with the Panthers. Western Kentucky receiver Malachi Corley is being hosted in Carolina today for a pre-draft visit. Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. is visiting the Bears today. That's really big news. Of course, the Bears have the number 1 pick. I would be shocked if the Bears were able to land Marvin Harrison at number 9. But we'll see what happens. And then the Minnesota Vikings meeting with Dallas Turner, Byron Murphy, Charles Turner, the New York Giants. Offensive tackle Giovanni Manu of the University of British Columbia had a pre-draft visit with the Giants today. Manu's 6'8", 352-pound lineman who has also visited with the Cowboys and has trips to see the Jets, Patriots, Browns, and Bengals scheduled. Washington State, Jaden Hicks is visiting the Jets on Monday. The 49ers have Patrick Taylor Jr. and Eric Saubert, tight end, signed. Eric Saubert, I believe, was a Bronco. I remember that name. So a veteran. The Minnesota Vikings will also be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will also be meeting with Jonathan Brooks with the Buccaneers, and Malik Neighbors will be visiting with the Titans. I don't understand these ones. Like, Malik Neighbors is not going to be available when the Titans are on the clock, but it is what it is. And then I just mentioned Tavondre Sweat, who was also arrested on Sunday. And I just went through all that, but they're meeting with the Tennessee Titans as well. So there's some updates. And last but not least, Roma Dunes is being hosted by the Cardinals today. Charles Turner is scheduled to meet with the Cardinals tomorrow, and Penn State's Chop Robinson is visiting Arizona also today. So a lot of big names going around making some meetings with these teams. Some of them I don't think are going to be on the board at that point, but maybe those teams are considering moving up, or they're just doing their due diligence. Not sure, but that's what's going on around the NFL today. And Adunza, thank you, Bill. Adunza is the correct pronunciation of that. The second half is starting. And that's perfect timing because that is the only football podcast for today. You guys can follow me at NFL with Kyle. And you can follow my partner Rick at And Now Rick. Please like this video before I end the stream. Just hit that thumbs up. It helps out our algorithm. And thank you guys always for being here, especially during the off season when you could be watching the national championship game or just not tuning into another JJ McCarthy. I know how the NFL news can get very monotonous during this time of year and just repeating the same big headlines, but I try to spice it up a little bit for you today. So tomorrow I'll be going live on my personal channel at Kyle Kitzman on YouTube. For those of you that don't know how to spell my last name, there it is right. Oh, there it is right here. Boom. You can follow me tomorrow and I'll be doing some more NFL stuff there. But for now, that is all I got. So thank you guys for tuning in and listening. Real quick, Jen just said, hell yeah, KC, saw it here at 3:06. I'm getting old. My daughter was with me, and I kind of teared up of how beautiful the moment was. Something I'll never forget. Definitely love that. I felt the same way today looking at that. So I'm glad to know that other people felt, I guess, as deep about that situation as I did. And it's just so crazy. What really was really, I guess, on my mind during it was how you can't look at it with your eyes, or you can go blind and it can destroy your retina. I was just thinking, man, like that is just so much power, like you can't even look at it. You'll be blind if you look at it. I mean, that type of power is just incredible. So I really, I felt the same way watching that. I'm glad you and your daughter had that moment today. And KC said, my dad attended Purdue, so I'm prejudiced or biased. So you're going for Purdue. And then Bill said, see ya, give our best to Rick, of course. And then Crafty said, I wonder if Kyle Evermans pronounces his own last name. No, definitely not mine last name. See you, fellas. Kyle scrammed quickly. His new lady friend possibly gave him some motivation. See you, fellas. Kyle scrammed quickly. His new lady friend. What new lady friend? I don't know what you guys are talking about. Where I live, there was just a slight dimming of the sky. I don't know how you guys know about this stuff, but regardless, definitely curious to know. Let me know in a DM how you guys know if it's even real, what you guys know about that. But as always, you guys are the freaking best. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. See ya!